All right, it's 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Everett?
Present.
Commissioner Yukovich?
Here.
Commissioner Eastman?
Here.
Commissioner Warren?
Present.
Mayor Johnson?
Here. At this point in time, we'll have the opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. If you'd like to join us, please stand.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. And this evening, Lord, we join our hearts with our brothers and sisters at Heston. And we pray that you would continue to encourage them and uplift them and bring comfort to them as only you can. And we take heart with our community, Lord, that we are also a group of people that loves one another, loves you, and we just ask for your protection and blessing. We thank you for this evening and the opportunity to be together here at this meeting, and we thank you for the opportunity to consider the different functions and needs for our community, and we pray that you would order those, that you would give wisdom as far as the choices and the financing and whatever's necessary for the things for the benefit of our community. We just thank you for your provision, your grace. We thank you for our employees, city employees. We ask your blessings on them and their families. We continue to pray for the protection and the provision of our first responders. And Lord, we pray for our military again this evening, both home and abroad, and their families. Just be with them. Give our commissioners wisdom tonight for the decisions that they make, and all the presenters, give them clarity and presentation. And we give you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I'd like to make a few changes. I'd like to have a Cali First report before hospital financial update, but I'd also just like to move the hospital financial update down to the sales tax question, because it's all concerns the hospital. So if we can move it down to there, this other item, the business consent, and the other one item in new business won't take very long, but that item will take a substantial amount of time. Also, I'd like to remove the 15-minute executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel from the agenda as well.
Okay, I'd move to approve those changes with Cali First being the only one listed under recognition of visitors, move hospital financial down to underneath sales tax, underneath business, and delete the executive session.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved in the second to add and delete as provided in the motion. Any further comments or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item carries. I'd also move to approve the agenda as changed.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as changed. Any further comments or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Recognition of visitors, Cali First.
Hey, good evening. It's good to see you guys again. You should have received a packet of some information for just an update on some of the activities that we've got going. And what was first in the packet? The program of work, kind of just highlighting a few of the areas that we're really just going to hit on for activities. Our business survey that we do with our companies was in your packet. Just kind of a couple of highlights off that. Is what up there next? So, our survey that we've done of 22 of our manufacturing employers this in 2015, kind of showing just some different employment numbers, where their projection for 2015 ended up being about 182 positions higher than it was expected, but still kind of holding that line in there. In 2016, we've got 10 businesses that are still planning to add some jobs, kind of a little bit more conservatively. We have had a lot of each year is. So that's kind of what we're seeing going into 2016. On down there, the sales, still projecting to see some stability and some growth into 2016, a little bit more conservatively in that 1 to 9, with the majority of them into 2016, the projections. So kind of holding stable in there, and still planning to see quite a bit of expansions in either building or equipment in Cali County. So, and that's been pretty stable right there. The companies that are projecting that expansions, for the most part, the good percentage, those are seeing a lot of adding equipment, but we've seen some expansions in some buildings too. But that's a survey that we do each year. So this year, we'll be going out and visiting our employers again and to see where projections. Now that we've been doing it a few years, we've got a lot more data. We can do some comparisons and kind of see what is going on locally with those employers. So just a few highlights off that. Next was the list of our projects that we have going. See, a lot of those are either incoming or something that we've got referred from Kansas Department of Commerce. We did have a site visit here a few weeks ago. Can't really speak a lot, but it was something that went really well for a possible new company at Strata Field. So that was a really good one. Have had a couple of more projects come through Commerce that we're still responding. We don't have a lot of building, so we are really promoting our industrial parks across the county for new company growth. So that's been good going this year. We are preparing later this month to do our first annual entrepreneurship challenge for our high school students. So we've got 3 high schools. Students between 9th and 12th grade will be coming down. Have a group of business folks and volunteers that are going to be judging. We'll be sending out some invites to have others come in to judge the trade show booths. And that is through our eCommunity and Network Kansas program. So our entrepreneurship is for eCommunity loan that we have the funds, but they're really trying to get into the youth to create some businesses locally in the community. So there's the winners for the placing, and then we will have actually now 2 students. They've opened another slot for Cali County because we should have about 25 to 30 students. So they've opened another seat. So we'll actually have 2 going to K-State on the 25th of April for the state competition. And there'll be probably 20, 25 different e-community challenges across the state that'll be sending kids up there. So that's going to be really, really exciting. So we're looking forward to that. Cindy, it's our first time, so we're hoping that's going to become an annual event and working with our high school kids. And then, one other thing, housing has always been an issue of how we're addressing housing and workforce. So we've also got some couple of different options. We're working with ARC-C and Winfield on different ways to address housing. So that's another thing. Hopefully we'll be able to see some products coming out of some discussions that we have ongoing, addressing infill housing and that type of thing for our city. So that's going to be pretty exciting as that goes. I think I'll show you.
Good evening. I'm Deb Fireball with Cali First, and I get to work with Carrie. And so I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the booklet that you guys were each given before the meeting. That is our Cali Works booklet. And so one of the things we've been working on for about the last 2 years is the idea of how to promote Cali County to potential workers. We know that we have a lot of jobs in Cali County, but what we're finding is as employers are recruiting people to the area, that they are choosing to live north and west of Cali County. So these here are some banners. We'll kind of go forwards and backwards. So these are some banners that we recently had created that will tie in with the Cali Works booklet and the Cali Works website that I'll tell you about. We were able to secure a small grant that paid for these. So that's always a good thing, something for free. So going back to, we wanted to find a way of how can we secure some of these people who are coming here for jobs and get them to live in Cali County. and we felt like we didn't really have a way to sell the area to people. So we came with the idea of a website, and hence the Cali Works. And so now we have this wonderful website, and this booklet you have is kind of an overview of what the pages are like, what type of information we're trying to provide. So, for example, if you go to the Ark City community page on the website, you're going to find links to the schools, housing, local employers, the library, the newspaper, the city's website, the CVB, the chamber. We're trying to be that one-stop resource where you can go home, you can tell your spouse about this wonderful job, and you can say, let's look at living in Cali County. And you should be able to find every resource that you need on this website. The booklet then was a companion piece that we can give to our HR managers and our local recruiters. This is something they can send home with somebody that they're trying to bring to Cali County for position, and then they can go home and sit down with their family and see what the area is like. Then in addition to that, what we have done, which is what the banners are for, and we have another banner being produced that goes with that, is creating more of a trade show type booth where we can go to job fairs and promote jobs living in Cali County, and we'll be going on behalf of some of our local employers who can't be on the road all the time, taking their jobs on the road. Especially some of our smaller employers who might only have 2 or 3 positions. They're not at every job fair, they just can't. So this is something that we feel we can do for them. So our next steps right now is we have the website, we have the booklet, we have the trade show booth. So is to promote the website to the end user, people who are looking at Cali County as a place to live. But also the website has job postings. We will post local jobs for free to our website. So that is something anybody, including those already living here, can utilize. And then the other thing we want to do is start, like I said, going to some more job fairs, and also letting our local employers know about the opportunity to post jobs for free. So we've kind of come a long ways in the last year, 2 years, since local businesses started feeling like this is a direction we need to be heading. And it was something that the county and the cities all also felt was a gap that we had. So we're hoping we have filled that gap. So do you have any questions at all? Well, in that case, enjoy your free postcard also. You even got a free postcard out of the deal today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's this guy?
Free section.
All right.
Nothing's free.
Any other visitors here to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? I see Mr. Heriter. Is there anybody else that's not on the agenda? Okay. Ken, come on. That's already on
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I had a conversation with Mr. Hernandez last week. Same issues as I've been up here before. The trash dumpster gates are non-functional. They won't open or close. The lady that manages the business has trouble closing them. The city trash trucks, when they come and leave, and the cardboard trucks come and leave, they don't get tied shut with a rope. And I think Richard's aware of the situation too. And they were open all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, blowed open in the wind, left open. This project hadn't got off the ground to start with yet, as far as I'm concerned. They tried to do this job on the cheap on some of the parts of it outside, mainly visually, that I have to look at and my neighbors from our side. Also, Mr. Giles, I showed you a photo in January of the short wood gate that they built to tie it in. I had asked that that be painted, and Richard said the developer refuses to paint that. But what happened Saturday, AT&T was out to try to pick those lines up and get their wires wired in. That happened, but he tried to open that wood gate so he could get access in there, and he had to jerk it open. Well, it sat there and beat in the wind all Saturday afternoon. Finally, I went over and tried to close it before it beat itself off and it'd be on the ground. Well, I can see why he couldn't get it open, because you can't get it closed either. And they never put any Z-bracing in. They used just the lightest materials, and they're sagged, hanging, so you can't close the gates. And the striker bolt, this is kind of humorous, has two places for two large screws to hold the striker bolt. They only put one screw in that striker bolt. So when you open it, the bolt falls down, so it's not even in a position to close and lock if the gate was functional. And the reason they didn't put that second screw in is because there's no material to hit. He come in between where he butted two pieces together, and there's no material for that screw to bite on, so he left it out. This is why I feel this job, and I have to look at this in my neighbors where we live. That's my picture window view, is the back of that building. And we're not even getting the gates to function. And, you know, a quart of paint would paint that 8-foot section of that panel. I feel the city needs to put the pressure on the developer to clean this up a little bit. One other thing I'd like to tell you before I quit, I know you guys are getting tired of seeing me down here. I don't like coming down and speaking in front of you either, let me tell you to be honest. But that's my neighborhood and that's my property. This evening, Mr. Brose, is he here? There's Eric. They put the signs up and they did a good job. And I think that's helping. But no left turn in coming from the north is in my yard. I don't think the people are seeing that. I would like to see a sign right under the one that's in the pork chop, facing the north, red circle with a bar in it. Let me tell you why. This evening I was sitting outside with my grandchildren after school, and the lady that's the manager of that store was pushing a cart out of the back door of that building to go to the dumpster to dump some cardboard boxes. A blue pickup truck come in from the north and cut in on that north side, scared her. Somebody's going to be hit and killed or seriously injured because you can't see until you're already committed. And she gave him a what to and a where for, from what I could see, and she pointed to that sign that's there for him to understand that's right out only. I think the city can afford one more sign, put it at a 90 under the one that's there, might save an injury or a life, because it's going to happen. I've seen my neighbor south of me. Her husband's in a wheelchair on oxygen. She loves that store because she can push her husband up to that store. She comes in from the south and goes out. If somebody comes darting out of there and goes to the left when they're supposed to go right, before they see them, it may be too late. I've already seen it. That's all I have to say. I just appreciate if I could have some help on some of these issues.
I'll check
Thank
on,
you.
I'll check on the sign for the no left turn in on the post. As far as the trash gates go, we could put a little bit of pressure on them because we do pick up the trash every day, and we also provide cardboard service to them. So we can tell them, you know, we could threaten to basically stop providing service to them or free service if they don't get it fixed, or at least get it where it's functioning properly. As far as the other gate, there's not a whole lot we can do on our end on that fence. It would just communicating with the manager and trying to get them to voluntarily fix that gate up properly.
Well, did it pass inspection?
That gate passed inspection, yeah.
I had called Mr. Brown when they was building that gate to let him know that they built that without any Z bracing. Just two 2x4s off the hinges and then put the planks on. Naturally, it goes just like this.
How would it pass inspection when you can't shut it? I mean,
a man gate, it was shutting just like the trash dumpsters was shutting, fastening, working perfectly when we fixed it, or when we made the final inspection. However, sometime shortly after that, something ran into the gate from the north and bent the post completely up and knocked one of the brackets down, and that made it. That was after the inspection. I went in and I talked to the manager for Kent, and she said, well, I'll see what I can do. I asked her about the man gate and painting it and working on it. I'm not painting that. That's exactly the way I want it. So it's their man gate. And
Now, under
Under the way we currently operate, even though I don't like it, aren't we a complaint-driven code enforcement type of people? Isn't that the way that works now?
Correct.
Is that truly in violation of a code?
Well, if it,
Is it a violation of the code?
It would be like me going up and telling Mr. Avery that his gate on his swimming pool is a little hard to shut.
Well, the paint,
It goes to the point that you can't.
But the paint is not a requirement of the
Well,
code.
the paint, no, we can't tell somebody to paint.
Paint their fence.
I was talking about the function of the gate
The function of
specifically.
the gate's the same way. They know it's bad. I pointed it out to them, but that's their problem. And if they don't fix it, I can't really make them because it is their property and their man gate.
So why did we inspect it to begin with?
It can be built that way. It's not a violation of code, Mr. Hayes. It can be built without the Z brace. It's not good practice, but it can be.
Well, I guess that answers my question. Should we have not inspected it at all if we,
Absolutely, when it meets the minimum code, you have to inspect it.
so is it meeting the code now,
Is it meeting the code now?
as it sets?
It's rough to open and close. But
Okay.
it can be done,
So it meets the code
the
requirement?
minimum standard. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I might add, I hope you don't build your new water department that way. Seriously, with what has happened in my neighborhood and how it affects me and my residents, seriously, if you would allow that to happen on your new water treatment plant, to me, that's a big embarrassment. That's all I have to say.
Bills?
Can we get a copy of the code that was inspected to as far as specific to the gate?
Yes.
Thank you.
all right. I see Mr. Brown, but that's a sales tax question, so we'll save that for when we get to that point. Any other visitors to discuss anything that's not on the agenda? There are no other business. We'll move on to awards and proclamations. Is there anybody here for this one, Nick?
No.
No? Okay. I will read it from here. Whereas the Congress of the United States passed the Civil Rights Act of 1968, of which Title 8 declared that the law of the land would now guarantee the rights of equal housing opportunity, and the City of Arkansas City is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And today, many realty companies and associations support fair housing laws. And the fair housing groups and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development have over the years received thousands of complaints of alleged illegal housing discrimination and found too many that have proved upon investigation to be violations of the fair housing laws. And equal housing opportunity is a condition of our life in our city that can and should be achieved. Now, therefore, I, Chad Giles, Mayor of the City of Arkansas City, Kansas, do hereby designate the month of April 2016 as Fair Housing Month. And the City of Arkansas City expressed the hope that this year's observance will promote fair housing practices throughout the city. Consent agenda, which consists of approval of the February 16 regular meeting minutes as well as the joint hospital board meeting minutes that same date. Appointments of Mr. Albert Brown Jr. to the Planning Commission, appointment of Randy Smith and Chris Raines to the Building Trades Board, and a resolution authorizing the rescheduling of our public meeting of the City Commission from 5:30 p.m. on March 15th to 5:30 p.m. on March 22nd.
On the date, moving that, I mean, seems like a lot we've had going on. Do we just want to meet twice, on the 15th and on the 22nd?
We'll have a couple individuals. Tamara will be gone on the 15th, I believe. Will you?
That's April.
April, sorry.
I'll
I
be
know
gone
Chad
for
will
sure.
be gone for sure. Just, we can.
I mean, I guess I'm asking my fellow commissioners here. I mean, there's just a lot to get done. What do y'all think?
Yeah, we can have both. That, not averse to that.
You guys are more than welcome to meet twice.
That's 3 times.
Be 3 times. That'll be 15th and 22nd.
Yeah.
For the month, yeah, 3 times. So do you want to change just to add an additional meeting on the 22nd? 5:30?
Sounds great.
I mean, I haven't heard
Well,
of
if,
none.
well,
just
if we
not
need
looking
it,
at my
I mean, I'm
calendar.
not opposed to it, you know.
That's where I'm looking at if I have anything personal already planned. It doesn't look like I do. But,
It's a 5-week month and, you know, there's
15th,
5
is that the spring
Tuesdays, so-
break?
Yeah,
oh, it is.
yeah, that's spring break week too.
Oh, that is, okay.
It doesn't matter to staff, we can be here. It's up to the
Do you think
commission.
we need to meet? I guess is a better question, Nick. I just,
We have enough to keep us busy for a while,
Yeah, that's,
for sure. Yeah.
So, what do we want to do?
yeah, what do we want to do?
Remove it or meet both dates?
I feel like there's enough critical things in the works. We ought to meet as often as we can right now, personally, but.
You want to
Yeah,
be
I
here?
don't think that'll hurt.
I can't be here the 15th.
Do you want to be here?
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely up to you guys. You guys can keep going without me. That's completely up to you. I mean, it depends on what's on the agenda, I guess.
that's what I was,
I could not tell you, I mean, well, it'll be a long meeting, for the
15th.
22nd, for sure. If you split up in two, it'd be 2 semi-long meetings.
Just
Instead
do
of
two
one
up
long
there.
meeting.
yeah, let's do two.
Yeah.
So do 2 is in meet both days?
Yeah.
15th
Okay.
and 22nd.
Okay. So we'll change that portion of the agenda, basically just adding another meeting on March 22nd at 5:30 PM, keeping the meeting that was already regularly scheduled on the 15th at 5:30. Any other comments or discussion on that? If not, I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Been moved by myself, seconded by Commissioner Warren to approve the consent agenda with the change of keeping the March 15th meeting and adding the March 22nd meeting at 5:30. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. No old business, new business number 1.
Presentation of the 2015 forfeiture fund activity report by Police Chief Miller.
Mayor, Commissioners, traditionally, we have provided this information to you as part of the annual budget, and it's kind of convoluted and hidden in there. So what I've decided to do from this point forward, to be a little bit more transparent, is to provide you each year with a specific report detailing the assets that we forfeited over the past year and what we have spent that money on. It doesn't total a lot. We're not like a large agency or the Kansas Highway Patrol that seizes a lot of money or items that result in a great deal of money. As you can see, we seized a total of $5,926.42. The listing in the packet there for the memo describes what those items were. Some of the items were cash, some of them were vehicles that were then sold and turned into cash. Those funds are kept in the Special Law Enforcement Trust Fund for the Police Department as designated by state law. And then the next section you see there, we have not spent any money last year except for legal fees and publications that are required as part of that forfeiture process.
What are you allowed to spend it on? Is there a requirement?
Basically, it's anything that I see that'd be beneficial. Training, equipment is something that is encouraged. I cannot use it to supplant the budget, so I can't use it to pay for something that I should have had funds to pay for on the budget.
What about like National Night Out? Would that be I know
That would
it's
be supplanting the budget. That's something that we've been doing, and that's an ongoing process that
What if we
been doing.
renamed it to National Day Out?
What I have been, I haven't spent any money out of this account since I've been here. We started out, when I got here, it was about $5,000, and we've accumulated up to $17,000. And I'm looking to use that to purchase equipment as we need it for special things and upgrades to the facility so that we can achieve accreditation.
So like the, oh, you said you'd have to do some upgrades to like your possessions room or something like that, security functions, would that
Correct.
be adequate for doing something like that?
Yes.
Good. Great.
Any other questions?
I think so.
Thank
Thank you, Chief. All right, new business, well, we'll just take 2 and 3. New business number 2 and 3, sales tax question, the hospital update.
That's one for the laser pointer. You don't go first. Make sure it works. That's pretty dark. I want to give the commission and also give kind of an operational overview. I'll go through the history of the property tax, utility bills, kind of sales tax, and then proposal impact. We'll talk about the question as well. Next slide. Property tax increase history by entity. Oh, I have it, don't I? Okay. Since 2004, the city of Arc City has actually, its property tax has increased about 3%, roughly. Cali College has actually decreased since 2010. So has Cali County since 2009. They've actually have decreased about 5%. They did have some years there from 2004 to 2009 where the mill levy did increase significantly, but in the later years they're actually down from where they were in 2009. You can see this blue line here actually is the consumer price index. So that's the rate of inflation right along here. You can see Cali County is right along that rate of inflation, even given those 5 years. Cali College is significantly below, and Arc City's below as far as from a mill levy perspective. So the growth in the property tax really is attributed since 2004 to Cali County, which has leveled out, like I said, since 2008 and actually decreased. But it's still increasing by the school district, and you can see that it's increased a little bit over 35% since 2004, the mill levy on the school. A lot of people say, well, you assess valuations have went up, so that's offset the need for increase in the mill levy. Well, actually, assessed valuation in Arc City is down. We're actually at negative 0.856%, pretty small percentage, but 1 mil does not get you the exact same dollar as it does today. So you actually get a little bit less for your dollar per mil than you did previously. The mill levy is 67.794 in 2003. Today it's 69.795, which has increased 2.95%. The revenue that's generated, so the tax money we levied in 2003, property tax money, is $70,000 more in 2016 than it was in 2003, which is only 2% increase. Inflation over that same period has went up 24%. Part of the reason we were able to do that is because of our budgeted positions. In 2009, we had 148.5 budgeted positions at the city. Today, we have 134, of which only 123 are actually filled. So that's a reduction of 10% in city staff just since 2009. I'll talk a little bit about your property tax bill that you receive. 201 mills is the county-wide mill levies that you see on your property tax statement. Of that, 48.494 mills goes to the general fund, 15 mills goes to debt service, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, and then 6 mil cap for the library. These are 2015-16 numbers. So these are the most recent. 6.25 mils of this 48 mills of the general fund goes to fund museum, Chamber of Commerce, Cali First, City County Health Department, and other agencies, entities. So total Arc City liability is 69.795 mils. The general fund portion is actually only 24% of your total tax bill. If you were to take out those external agencies, it's only 21% of your total property tax bill. So 24% of what you pay in taxes goes to fund certain agencies, and I'll talk about those here in a minute. A lot of individuals talk about the amount of outstanding debt we have as the city of Arc City, so I wanted to just clarify some issues. Only 6.4% of the current outstanding debt that the city has is attributed to decisions that have been made since 2009. The only debt that the city has incurred since 2009 is a lease purchase of a pumper fire truck that we've done. And that was done in 2013, I believe, is when we purchased that fire truck. We did do a bond issuance in 2013, a GO bond issue, but every single item on that bond issue was from temp notes that were done previous to 2009.
What is our total liability right now for, I know that's since 2009, but
The total outstanding debt that the city has is 6.5 million. It's how much total debt we have as of today. PBC has 21 million, which does not count against the city's debt limit or load. Revenue bonds, if you issue water, sewer, it would not count towards that portion of general obligation debt either. It's considered a different category. So what we did is we went and looked at what the different entities had, and I don't have, we looked at the budget for Cali College, which is actually online, Kansas Division of Accounts and Records, and the most recent one we could find is they had certificates of participation of 6.4 million that are issued for the Hafner Sports Complex, or the dormitories. Was there anything else, or was it just some other facility as well? So they had 6.4 million of debt out there that they're paying on. PBC, which we're talking about today, is 21 million. USD 470 has 40 million of outstanding debt currently. And I'll clarify a little bit. The citizens of Arc City are not responsible for 100% of that. Portions of that are actually spread throughout the entire school district, but we're still about 70% of that, 65-70% of that 40 million, but it's still the debt of the school district. And then the library doesn't have any debt, and they're capped at 6 mils for the library.
are there any other funds? I know, like you said, the like external funds that, like the water plant, for example. Are there any other than the proposed water plant that's outside of that 6.5 million?
Not that we have currently, no.
Okay.
No, that's the only one that we have that's pending. We've paid cash to date for everything on that project, so we have not issued any debt whatsoever. And I think we've issued about $4 million to date in regards to just cash that we've outlaid towards the different portions of the water treatment facility and the study, so on and so forth. I don't have the exact number from me, ballpark. Our general fund expenditures, so that mill levy that I was talking about, that 24% of your property tax, it goes to fund the fire department, police department, and given there is a 1 cent sales tax that offsets their expenditures, this is total general fund expenditures. So it's looking not at what's given from the property tax, but it shows you what's included in your portion of the property tax that you pay and your sales tax. Your sales tax, the 1 cent sales tax, goes to fund directly police and fire departments. Your property tax goes to help fund police and fire departments, but it also goes neighborhood services, which is code enforcement, 3%, parks facilities, 16% of your budget, streets, 6%, emergency reserve was 3%.
What is that?
Emergency reserve, we had $300,000 that we set aside for emergency reserve, which is now gone. It was utilized by the hospital to pay for the loan. Finance administration, 10%, which includes all the finance departments and city manager's office. External agencies, 3%, court and legal's 2%.
So for like 2016, what is the total? It was on a previous slide, but for that general fund?
The general fund total is significantly larger. But the general fund total from property tax is where's Kathy at? How much
48%
property tax do we receive? From 3.5 million is what we receive from property tax. And that goes to fund these. In 2014, something we talked about is we didn't make any transfers from the utility funds to offset any of these expenditures. So we didn't use any water funds, sewer funds, trash to offset any of these general fund expenditures in 14.
So, on the police and fire part, because that's such a significant portion of it,
Correct.
is, maybe I didn't hear you, I think you said it, but is that half cent, is that, or the 1 cent, is that 1.6 million included in that?
This is total, yes, that 1.6 million is included in fire and police departments. Yeah, this is total general fund expenditures, which is much greater than just the property tax portion. Because you have property tax, you have fines and fees, you have sales tax that helps offset it. And then you just have other fees, like court fines and neighbor services has building permit fees. Parks and facilities has some, they have a little bit of revenue from park rentals and facility rentals. And I believe there's franchise tax goes into this one as well. So franchise fees go into the general fund pie too.
Is that something I can get a breakdown of what all goes
Yeah,
into that
it's in
general
the
fund?
it's in the budget book, but we can give you, I can get it for you. I want to talk a little bit just about utility bill. There's a lot of questions out there. I've done this slide 3 or 4 times, but I want to show a breakdown of what your actually portions of the bill are for each one of these, because when people get their bill, they call it the water bill, which of course it's water, sewer, trash, and stormwater. Your water portion of your bill is for the water treatment, water distribution, operations, and improvements. This is the average residential utility bill. This isn't commercial. This is the average utility bill in Ark City. Yes, we're going to have some lower. Yes, we're going to have some quite a bit higher. But on average, 4,000 gallons roughly, it's $33.17 for water, $28.43 for sewer, $18.44 for trash, and $3 a month for stormwater, which includes the levy system. So the average city bill is $83.17, residential utility bill. If you combine that with the average house value, the median home value in Ark City is $67,000 and some change. If you take our current mill levy, which is the entire mill levy, not just the general fund portion, but the entire mill levy, the average citizen or average resident pays $45 a month towards property tax, which is $1.51 a day. And it would only be $31.51 if external agencies were excluded, because external agencies don't have their own funding source, so they're solely funded from property taxes. We don't have any fines, fees associated that go directly to those agencies to offset their cost.
I thought it was only 3% of the general fund though. So how would it be?
Well, you're looking at 3% of the general fund, but it's only 3.5 million from property tax. And then you take the external agencies, which actually account for, I'm trying to remember how many, it's about $300,000 out of, so it's about 10% is what it is. But I can explain that further, but I don't have it right in front of me. But it would reduce it
I don't
$15 a month per household.
I think something's wrong there.
And then for all city services, on average, $128.52 for water, sewer, trash, storm, fire, EMS, so on and so forth, that we talked about. Now onto the sales tax. Comparable sales tax rates. Independence, Kansas is 9.5. Pittsburgh's 9.25. McPherson's 9. I put Independence, McPherson, and Wellington in there because they've actually passed sales taxes recently for their hospitals, those 3 communities. And so I just wanted to show what their sales tax rate is at currently. Ponca City's is 8.67. I don't know for sure if they renewed their street sales tax that they had, but they were, and if they didn't, that'd be a little bit lower. Ark City's 8.25%. The breakdown from that, 6.5% goes directly to the state of Kansas, which we'll never see. 1% goes to public safety, which I just explained earlier. 40% goes to the police department, and 60% of that goes to the fire department. Half-cent sales tax goes to hospital debt service currently, and then a $0.25 goes to the county. The county's on track to actually pay theirs off earlier than they first thought. 2017, is that correct, Gary? Roughly. potentially the county sales tax, 2017, early 2018, coming off the tax rolls? Maybe.
On the 9/11
Yes, sir.
we think probably 2017, which
Okay.
will be a year and a half early.
So it'll
Think.
potentially, has the potential to come off a little bit early. If we were to increase our sales tax rate to 9.25%, we'd be tied for the 27th highest city, and tied with 15 other cities. That doesn't include community improvement districts or transportation development districts, which can skew your numbers for true county city sales tax rates. And so I just wanted to inform the commission of that.
Can you go back to that? I just want to
Yep.
take it in for a minute.
Do you know what Mulvane's is, for example? I mean,
Derby.
Derby's 8%.
I do. I have all that on my computer.
These are all comparable size to Arc City though, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean,
Kind of.
Punk City's
Population-wise?
twice as large.
Wichita's
Winfield's
not.
about the same. Wichita's,
Well,
of course.
But if we're going to compete, our retailers have to compete with Winfield, Wichita, Ponca City, and a lot with Derby.
Correct.
So if Derby's 8 and we go up to 9 1/4, and Wichita's 7 1/2,
Mhm.
that's a difficult thing. I'm
Correct.
just thinking out loud here.
Any other questions on this slide? Here's where I get to the direct benefit, though. If you shop in those other communities and you don't shop local, currently Arc City receives about $2.5 million. That's 1 cent for the police and fire, and then 1/2 cent for the hospital sales tax currently. So by shopping in Arc City and paying sales tax in Arc City, we receive about $2.5 million. If you shop in those other communities, that's just lost sales for us, and we don't see any of that money, unfortunately.
It's also important to shop in the state. And,
Correct.
I mean, going even when from city service standpoint, we go buy stuff at Lowe's, we got to go to the one
Yeah,
in
the sales
Derby.
tax helps for the school districts, of course, and all the other services that the state provides, absolutely. Yeah, it's far better than going across the border into Oklahoma. The sales tax proposal, just want to give you an idea of where they're at as far as how much the hospital's basically obligated to us as of today. 2015, $404,000. 2016, they're $275,000 to date. However, if they're unable to pay any on their special assessment, which is probably reality, and not a dime more for that August payment, you're looking at potential of $951,777 or $777 in 2016. We did in our 2016 budget assume in our debt service portion that they would not pay 1 dime towards special assessments. So we already budgeted in there that 200 and some thousand
When
for
did we do
special
that?
assessment. That was last year's budget when we approved it in August. We approved them not paying their,
Why did we do that?
because we didn't think that they would come in as a safety cushion for us.
Who says we?
You.
Kathy.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess the reason I asked that question, it's a little bit loaded, of course, but I mean, if we had concern then, it sure wasn't exactly publicized. I'll put it that way. I mean,
Well, they weren't paying their special assessments. They were a few months behind, so we assumed that they probably wouldn't pay.
now when you say special assessments, you mean the 18,000 or 20,000
Correct.
20,000 a month?
Correct.
Okay. And what-
So potentially owe 1.6 million at the end of 16. It's 2015, 2016 combined.
What about, and I know we'll hear from the hospital in a moment, but I actually think the number's greater than that, from the fact that they owe our vendors 1.99 million, and I don't know how long we can continue to go down that path. And I think I asked Holly, and I'm sure she's got me a number. What do we got to do to help them immediately to, so we don't get cut off and.
Yeah,
I mean,
this number here is just what they owe the city of Arc City. But yeah, I understand your question, your line of questioning. Yeah,
Right.
correct. Yeah. So here's a sales tax question that's being proposed this evening. Shall the city of Arc City, Kansas impose a 1% citywide retailers special purpose tax for payment of debt service previously incurred to construct and equip South Central Kansas Medical Center to commence as soon as legally permissible and expire 10 years after its commencement. So it's 10 years, cap, 1 cent sales tax for the debt service of the medical center. I want to go over a little bit of an impact on the debt service, because that way inform the commission and public of kind of where we're at. If we currently have $840,000 roughly in revenue that we receive from the existing half-cent sales tax, you can see these numbers here, 17, 18, show that revenue in the no sales tax bracket of $840,000. What that means is there's that 1.2, 1.3 million shortfall on top of what they they've already borrowed from us. So that is where you get that number. But if they only relied solely on the revenue from the sales tax, it'd be a 1.2, 1.3 million shortfall every year, or for the next 2 years, if the sales tax were to fail.
Does that include the $2 million that we owe our vendors?
The hospital is the vendors. The
I understand.
city. So if the hospital were closed,
we own the hospital, so I say we, but I mean
that does not include
okay.
the vendors. I'm just saying the city's portion, the city's obligated to pay as far as the city of Ark City, the entity.
Not own the hospital.
So
For the vendors.
2019, 2023, that would actually increase to 2.1 million a year, which is equivalency of 40.7 mils at the 51,500 mil levy or mil rate. In 2024, 2033, it'd be 2 million, and then 2033, 2038. 2038 is when the bonds are scheduled to end. That'd be 1.8 million. So you see it's 40 mils if the sales tax were not to pass. I'm not, and I'll go over some options and kind of what we've been looking at internally to try to bridge that gap if need be. The current half-cent sales tax, which we haven't talked about increasing it any, actually, yeah, my first number's wrong there, but the year's 1938. If you were to extend the sales tax in 2009 or 2019, you'd still be that 1.2 million short. So it's just that's what's shown. But that's if you don't pass this year, but you go ahead and extend the 1/2 in 2019. The 1 cent sales tax, if it were to pass, it'd go into effect, in July of this year. You potentially in 2017 can see revenue of 2.5 million. Which actually gives them a surplus in revenue of $400,000. In years 2019, when that half-cent sales tax comes off, they're going to be back to being short $400,000 a year. And then 2024 to 38, you're still in that $300,000 to $200,000 short on their obligations. So what happens if the sales tax votes? City's still going to be responsible of a shortfall of 1.3 million if there's absolutely zero participation or help from the hospital. That doesn't include their vendors, but that's just the city's 1.3 million in 2016, which can be done. We're talking about not filling some positions that are currently vacant. We're talking about not doing some capital outlay purchases in the general fund.
Can you go back one slide for just a second?
Yes, sir.
The 1 cent at the bottom, if you pass for 10 years, would go off in 2026.
Correct.
So you wouldn't be getting any.
I'm assuming you're going to carry. It would carry on throughout and be renewed.
So that's 1 cent till the hospital's
Till
paid
it paid off 2038. If you did 10 years, it would go off in 2026, 27.
Be back up to the negative numbers.
Correct. It'd be back up to this number.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
In 10 years. So back if it passes, you are out 1.3 million. However, with the 1/2 cent sales tax, there will be enough sales tax revenue coming in to pay the debt service and special assessments on that, plus have an additional $420,000 a year, and those for 2 years in excess revenues. I think what the goal needs to be in 29, whether sales tax passes or votes, is by 29 we have one healthcare system for all of Cali County. Something Virgil and I have talked about. I think if it passes, that needs to be the ultimate goal, period. I think regardless of what happens, how safe and secure the hospital is, I think overall long-term benefit of Cali County is going to be having one sort of system. And I can't tell you what that's going to look like. That's going to have to take some study. But I think we need to keep that end goal in mind. But at the end of the year, the proposed 10-year sales tax issue, you have 12 years remaining on the debt, and you'll need to reevaluate and evaluate the position of the hospital constantly, making sure that they're not taking on more vendors, making sure their operational revenues or the revenues are covering their operational expenditures. But you just have to keep a really close eye on them. If it fails, we would do everything in our power to try to protect core services. We will immediately, which means 2016, if it fails, we'll immediately start making these recommendations to the commission. Some of the options that will be coming before you, but aren't limited to, of course, are elimination of all the external agency fundings, and that means ceasing payments for the rest of the year, if possible, if our agreements allow us, for certain agencies. That's to include potentially the museum, Cali First, the Chamber of Commerce, City County Health Department, and those other agencies if we're not legally obligated or to pay them. Also, we'd have to look at all of our non-critical city facilities programs and determine what service levels we're going to provide with them or even offer them anymore. And we're going to have to look at elimination of excess properties or properties that we currently own, which could be parks or so on and so forth. It's out there, but as a potential. We'd also have to reduce our existing staff in the general fund of 5 to 7 individuals. We would also do a 10% reduction in salaries for all city employees that make over $50,000, which is going to mean you're going to have a huge exodus of individuals leaving in certain positions. But we'd also freeze wages for all employees because we're stuck. We're not going to have any additional revenue coming in the later years to offset the increases in the salary increases, so on and so forth, that are coming down the pipe. Also, we'd have to look at benefits. We'd be asking our employees to pay more potentially for benefits on their portions. We would also not fill positions that are currently unfilled in the general fund, which is about 6 to 8 positions, which do include a firefighter, police officer in there. We'd also have to increase franchise fees, potentially. One of the options of 1% to help offset some of those expenditures, because we're talking $2.1 million. So we're trying to close a $2.1 million gap without relying solely on the property tax. Even with all that said, we're still probably going to be at least 10 mils short of being able to come up with the needed revenue to cover that, which is it's more than 500,000, but that's for 2019 all the way to 2038. So basically, it will definitely reshape the outlook of the city for 20 plus years. Definitely would. But we can't expect a 40 mil increase either. It's something that cannot be done either. So this is how we potentially would staff recommendations to the commission as being avenues to bridge that 40 mil gap. And that's all I have. Turn it over to the hospital.
Tag team this with Clayton Papan. My name is Holly Harper. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at the hospital, and this is similar to what Nick just presented for the city, and this is what the hospital has developed over the last couple weeks with board input and medical staff input. Right now, we are cutting $750,000 from our current budget and our current operations. The biggest portion of that, which we talked about, I believe, at our last meeting,
where we sat at the table was reducing our telehospitalist service to nocturnal hours, or we're still trying to shape that at a cost of $120,000. Our anesthesia coverage at $100,000. Reviewing our GPO, our group purchasing organization, $100,000. The contract for radiology, which was approved at our board meeting last week, is a $70,000 year savings, and it goes on down the list. And I'll let Clayton speak a little bit to this, but this is what we have developed over the last couple of weeks to reduce our costs at the hospital.
So I know that you haven't had an opportunity to look over these things, but you'll see that as you do, it touches practically every department within the hospital. Our team leaders have all been involved with this process. One thing that I want to make clear, because it seemed to cause a little bit of confusion last time we were here, this in general does not touch our frontline staff salary. We feel that they have not had increases in general for the last 5 years and could not put an additional reduction on them. That being said, the administrative team has already agreed and has taken a 15% reduction in our salaries and are completely happy to do so in support of the facility. But we're going to have to find additional ways to come up with any more than the $750,000 that we have already in place, or at least will be in place by the time we get the last few put together by the next month or so. Some are small things that add up, and some are significant chunks, but altogether, that's our best plan that we have at this point, and it has been approved from our board of trustees at our last meeting.
And those are annualized numbers, or
Those
are
are
they?
all annualized numbers.
This was approved at the last meeting?
We've added a few since then, but the majority, the big numbers, were all part of the last meeting.
Which meeting?
At the hospital board meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, it was reviewed, it wasn't approved by.
Okay.
This was last Thursday.
Yeah.
Was this discussed in open session?
No, because
No.
there are some potential issues that we discussed that related to staff positions in that, so we did not discuss the plan in general because there was some impact to those, and we've renegotiated that a little. Any positions that we would be removing, in general, we would be looking to try to find them another place so that we have current openings, reuse them more effectively and efficiently within the organization, rather than just reducing them completely.
Okay.
So if the sales tax is approved, or sales tax fails, what is the hospital, do they have a contingency plan? Have they started developing one if the hospital was not to receive that additional 1 cent? Because, you know, I demonstrated how we would do it at the city level if we got zero funding, you know, from the hospital. I just was curious if that has been done at the hospital side.
To get to the 2.1.
I know it'd be impossible to get to 2.1.
Yeah.
I know it would be.
So this is your first wave of cuts. What would your second be? Have you given that thought? Okay. And that would potentially impact frontline services?
Definitely would.
I'd like to let the commission know that the 1.2, 1.3 million, it is affecting our frontline employees this year. It's not elimination of any of them, but it is affecting them.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be doing
So-
without a lot. They're not going to be filling positions. You know, they're going to be taking on a lot more roles and responsibility that are currently not filled by certain individuals. Police department, fire department's one of them. Also, we're postponing purchase of tanker potentially for the fire department. Also, you know, other minor things when you look at the grand scale: elevator, agribusiness building roof, you know, those are items that would have to be immediately cut from this year's budget.
So, the numbers you put on the slide presentation,
Correct. They assume zero help from the hospital.
now if these cuts go through, or as they
Propose.
are proposed and if they're implemented,
And are accurate.
Yeah.
is there a chance, I guess we don't know how much the hospital, I don't even know what question I'm trying to ask, except.
I think you want to know whether
Yeah,
or not the
how
hospital
much
be
help do we think-
obligated,
How much help do we think we're gonna need to give to the hospital?
or do you have that go back to the vendors? I mean, I think that's a decision by the trustees and by hospital staff with commission recommendation or guidance potentially to help them make that decision. I could be wrong. I mean, Virgil, I don't wanna put words in your mouth.
So when you
By any
projected
means.
these savings, is that a year out based on when it was completed?
It's 12 months of savings,
Okay.
yes, it won't be
So,
2016 savings.
All right.
about
Annual savings. Was there another slide, or was that it?
Can we
I
get-
do have some more information, I'm good, go ahead.
Can we get copies of this?
I will hit a few pieces of information that was requested of me. Accounts payable, we were at 1.998, and you can see the breakdown here. I'm actually going to get into another slide here in a second, but we had 22% at over 120 days. That's $445,000.
Does that include what you guys owe us? Probably not, if it's only 445.
It includes a portion of it that would be due now. 'Cause
How
you
much
move
it-
it to accounts payable as it's due. It stays in current portion of long-term debt, and then you move it into the payables bucket.
Well, the reason I asked that question is because, so when we loaned you 275 here a few weeks ago,
It'll be in February's, 25,000 of it will be in February's accounts payable.
Yeah, so the 275 doesn't get in there, just the payment.
so just the payment.
Correct.
And what about the missed payments from,
Those are in these numbers,
all those missed payments are in there?
yes.
How much of that, so let's just say the city, we forgive all that debt, how much would this drop? How
We've
much is
got,
that owed to the
I know
city?
off the top of my head, we have 75,000 right now sitting on the city. We do not have the specials in these numbers.
Okay.
They're in the current portion of long-term debt, pardon me. So it would just be $75,000 of this. Okay, I was asked to, pardon me, bring a list of what I feel are vital vendors, that are crucial to what we do at the hospital. I will mention a few and kind of give you an idea of what they provide for us at the hospital. What total I have here, it's really hard to see, and I apologize for that, but it's $608,000. A lot of these vendors are surgical or medical supply vendors. They're like this first one, for example, it's Alcon Laboratories, and that's the company that supplies us our lenses for our cataract surgeries. We do that once a month with Dr. Wellemeyer, and that's $24,000 of the total. American Red Cross, of course, supplies us blood. Beckman Coulter, $40,000. That's our lab supply.
So like on the first one, for example, and I mean, you can kind of tell all the numbers are trending off to the right.
Mhm.
So is it because we're paying them, or they're not selling us anything in the last 0 to 60 days?
I haven't heard anything on Alcon.
I'm just talking for all of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm looking through the list. We are having a little trouble with Amerisource, but that is not our only vendor that we use.
You see what I'm saying,
Yeah,
guys?
so are we just choosing to ignore the old bills and paying the currents?
No, and vendors wouldn't want that. Vendors want you to pay the oldest stuff first.
So I guess where I'm going with that, it appears to me when I broke down, and this has been trending this way for the last several years, but your guys' money that you'd owe to your vendors is about $566,000 a month.
Yes,
And so out of that 1.99 that you owe, let's just say 90's OHR, so you owe 1.9. You know, you're really like 1.4 behind, technically, but it doesn't appear that you spent in the last 60 days even anywhere near that 566.
and that's because I haven't put everything from that vendor. So Alcon, I didn't give you all of Alcon's aging. I gave you what I thought was important. I thought that's what I was asked to bring forward, was what I felt was important invoices that aging that was needed to be looked at.
Okay.
So these Stryker down here, those are surgery accounts. That's what I believe.
You're looking at, this is the emergency needs to be taken care
Correct.
of now. Gotcha.
Correct.
This isn't
Yes,
everything.
that's why you
Okay.
don't see the other aging.
That helps, thank you.
Okay. That makes sense, too.
How much are you paying per month to those vendors that are the 121 plus? Are you paying them a certain percentage?
We are with some. Some are allowing us to pay. We have an agreement, for instance, with CPSI, our hospital vendor, that we have to pay $10,000 a week. We have another agreement with Philips, and it's on here. It's on our service agreements that we pay. It's about $10,000 a week. It ends up being about $40,000 a month. It varies with each vendor. Some are allowing us to pay just a couple of invoices a week. We try to get as much of the 120 plus that we can out the door. Let me find the one on here. The HHS, Hospital Housekeeping Systems, that's $85,000 of the total. That was the housekeeping system and dietary system that we used and dismissed the contract in August. Is that correct? And we still owe them some, and they're allowing us to make payments on that amount.
So, has anyone at the hospital looked into Chapter 9 or Chapter 11 to clean these up? For
I have not
bankruptcy?
directly. I don't think that legal counsel has either.
Is that possible?
Reorganization?
I don't see how it is, being a part of the city.
An entity can, Chapter 9, an entity can reorganize even, as far as I've read, I'm not the attorney though, I would think an entity can do a Chapter 9 without the entire city being involved.
Are you
We
paying,
haven't looked at that, we haven't considered that.
are you paying interest on any of these?
The only one that I'm aware that we pay interest is Phillips that charges interest.
Is that the same Phillips that you guys approved at
Yes.
at the last board meeting for
the
another,
service agreements,
another
yes.
275,000 or something of that nature?
It ends up being $104,000 a year.
For 5 years?
Yes.
Well, back to your question, Dan, what would you reorganize? There's really nothing there to organize to begin with. I mean, it's really already unorganized. I mean, I don't know what you would do.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, if you're getting sued for a bunch of different locations, maybe it's different, but.
That's true.
Okay.
Thank you, Holly.
Yeah.
So what is that total number down there, 628?
608 41198. And I can send the slides to you guys.
Great, please do, thank you.
Just a couple things. I think the hospital should be at your table, Mr. Hernandez, to talk about cuts, just like the rest of your departments. Yes, I've been around long enough to know when we were a department of the city, and we were required to come in and talk about what we can do and what we would be requested to adjust within our operations to do so. So I think it's time for us to get back to that type discussion. You know, I want to be on the hot seat just like the rest of the departments are, and be sitting in front of those people that are making sacrifices along with the hospital. I don't think that's something that we should be kept out of or we should be included in. One of the positive things that we've done is we've recruited another doctor. He'll start March 21st. And you could argue with Clayton about how much money net or gross that we think that he will bring in. And we'll keep pursuing things like that to try and help remedy our problem of not utilizing our hospital at the level that it needs to be used in order for us to pay our bills. You can't have an average of 9 patients a day and think you're going to be able to keep a hospital open the size of South Central Kansas Medical Center. You know, we have a lower census than most of our surrounding hospitals, and it's just something that we need to increase the utilization of our facility in order to make ends meet. Our basic break-even point's about 13 patients, as I said at the round table the other day. You know, we have to use the hospital, and if we don't, and we're sending patients to Wichita and to surrounding facilities, then it's no way for our facility to make ends meet. is the bottom line. And we've tried to improve our services. We've changed a lot of things within our organization as fast and as quickly as we possibly could. I've committed, and I may be the only one that have committed to working toward reorganizing the healthcare delivery system in Cowley County. You know, I'm committed to that. If there's one sin that I've committed over the last 18 years, is I didn't stay engaged with the healthcare delivery systems that was taking place in our community. And that's bad. We need to all stay involved and not become apathetic as to what's causing our delivery system to fail at whatever level it is, whether it's our clinics, our hospital, our dentist office, our public health, or whatever. It all works together, and if it doesn't, one piece of it fails, then we're all going to be in trouble.
Yeah, but Virgil, that's easier than said and done. How would you go about doing that? I mean,
well, we just got to get together. We got to sit down and talk about it. We got to sit down and communicate about it. You know, I think I've learned more in the last 3 months than I knew about the situation as far as the bonds and all the information that's out there about how all of this was decided on before I got in the job I'm in. You know, it's a tough situation, and we need to look at those things that are standing out there that are headwinds against us. We give about $1 million worth of free care away every year, or provide free care to 1 million people, $1 million worth of free care every year, and that's care that we can't get paid for. It's going to become uncompensated. There's no one out there to pay for it, and so the hospital eats that. And so every time you look at that huge amount of money that we owe vendors, some of that's because of that. You know, I asked my staff the other day, so well, where does all of our inventory go? Why are we buying so many supplies? Because we're using them on patients that can't pay, and it's our moral obligation, and we're required by regulation to treat every person that comes through our doors like, regardless of their ability to pay. Whether they're the richest or the poorest person in our Kansas City, we're going to give you the same care we would give anyone that walks through our doors. And so I think that's important to know, is that we're just not being derelict in our duty. There's a huge mountain to climb before you build a hospital, and it's even bigger now that we have a hospital. But we have a diamond of a hospital that sits out there. We just need folks to use it. We need to get the adequate number of doctors in place. We lost physicians and we didn't replace them fast enough. And now we need to get back in the business of trying to get that done. Any questions?
I have one. We give all this care away, which
we provide. I didn't mean to say give it away.
Well,
we provide this care.
I'm sorry. Maybe I said the wrong thing. We provide care free for people that can't pay. Is there any way that the hospital can do something? I know you've talked about urgent care and critical care. Is there any way that we could get some of that started for the people that come in for runny noses or stomach aches, flu? I know they use that emergency room for all of that, right?
Yep.
Is there
One of the things that's in our county right now is the federally funded health center in Winfield. I don't think they're quite up and running yet, but they are in position to try to start taking care of some of our patients that don't have insurance and don't have the ability to pay. That's going to help. But we need them to get in place, and we'll have contracts with them. If they come into our organization and need care, then they will compensate us something for having provided that. If they need to be seen in the emergency room or have x-rays or lab testing done, then we'll get something for those patients. And then we'll coordinate that care with the HQFC in Winfield to try to make sure they get follow-up care and get taken care of. And so that's what's coming. You know, we're just in a bad spot right now to where there's a lot of things. Dan always gets on me about pie in the sky, but there's some things that are coming down the pike that we're working on that are going to help. We just need some assistance in getting us there to where we can stabilize the services at the hospital going forward.
Any reason why he can't have a seat at the table for department heads? Okay. So we can extend that invitation from now on. And then where are we at on the healthcare consultant portion?
We're still working on some scoping items. And I'm waiting for Mr. Watson to get back with
We
me on
got that
his
last Friday,
suggestions.
Mr. Mayor, and we've been going through it as a management team. And we'll have something back to the city manager here shortly.
We want to make sure that it's comprehensive enough to meet what we need to be met, rather than missing something midway and having to change it in, or
So still no ideas how much that's gonna cost.
it'll be probably $150,000 to $200,000.
Will that be split between the city and the hospital?
No, it won't.
Even if it is.
Well, I thought I'd ask. Hopefully they'd come up with,
Depends what kind of terms they'll give them, I guess.
well, they've got pretty good terms now, so.
So as far as the sales tax, I was just kind of doing the math earlier today. I think the target from Clayton was 90 days, you know, on the,
We had a good discussion about that today.
I don't think you're gonna make your second quarter turn even if we did anything today.
I need to correct that, because Otis and several of us in administration had a phone conference with the county today, and it's not 90 days, there's not a 90-day requirement, there's only a 2-week requirement as far as publication notice. I was under the impression there was a 90-day requirement that it had to be published in so many times within that time frame. That was my misunderstanding of the information. So according to the information provided to us today, if we were to do either a mail-in, which is our recommendation, or a special polling ballot, they could be done in May. It'd take them that much time to get the ballots together regardless, and have the money in for the third quarter of this year.
Meaning the tax would start on June 1st?
Yes. July
1st, or at the end of June, yeah, July.
We'll start collecting it. We might see some of it by the end of August.
Yeah, it'll take a few months to get some of that in. And if it were to pass, they would have enough from when it takes effect, to pay their February payment as well as their September payment. So they would have enough revenue already available to them if the 1 cent passes.
Say that again.
I'm sorry. If it goes into effect this year, August, we start receiving funds, we will have enough receipts from the sales tax revenue for them to pay their first payment in February 2017, as well as they'll have enough revenue to pay from that point forward, plus have excess revenue for the first 2 years until the half cent expires.
I guess I'm just not convinced yet that a 1% sales tax is gonna fix your problem. First off, I don't think it will. I think it's still gonna be short, and I think 2.1, your number, Nick, per year over year is a little bit light, personally. I think it's closer to
2.1, you shut the door and you pay the debt service. And then we have the special assessments and you pay what's owed on the bonds. Nothing bleeds out.
You talking about the vendors?
No, I'm just
Money?
saying, what Nick could put in his proposal here is the hospital's 2.1 million short annually.
That's just for our debt service payments, their obligations to the city of Arkansas City, not anybody else.
So annually, how much do you guys believe you're short? Because you gotta have no meaningful use money in 2016. If you paid your vendors, I mean, my estimation is you're gonna be over $2.4 million annually is the amount of money you need to generate to operate the way you're operating today.
I'm not the finance person, but I can tell you that we're $1.9 million behind in the vendors. We have $1.9 million due on the building, and we get right now $850,000 roughly of that from the sales tax revenue. And beyond that, we're responsible for it. Ultimately, the city's responsible for it, but first blush, we're responsible for that.
And I see your point. Their operational expenditures are greater than their revenues that they're bringing in just for their operational portion.
Sure.
So there is a gap, funding gap.
With the cutting of the $750,000 a year, that should close the gap you're concerned about, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would certainly help if it's come
Yeah,
to
it
fruition.
would close a gap, and it would actually, if nothing else changed and their census stayed the same, it would actually increase, potential $400,000 swing in the positive. That's still not near enough to cover the debt service if
And it only gets you by, Chad, till 2019. I mean, the amount of money that they owe now to either the city or to the vendors, find my notes here, but I believe the revenue that you intend to receive between now and 2019, let's see, you guys owe $3.4 million after this bond payment that you're not gonna make here at the end of the year, assuming you can't pay for that. You're gonna be $3.4 million indebted to either the city and or your vendors. And the sales tax revenue that you're gonna generate between now and 2019 doesn't even cover that loss. So, the way I look at it, you can count that money gone, because you got basically 3 years of, at 780,000. Doesn't even make the 3.4 million back here. So, what I'm saying is, even to get caught up, that money's gone. So in 2019, we're gonna be having the same conversation unless there's a lot more significant changes than a $750,000
Well, and I think that
introduction.
that's the part that we didn't bring to discuss, because we've been told not to bring numbers that talk about things that are possible in the future, things that we're working on, Dr. Posey, orthopedic surgeons, things like that, that are continually working to try to grow revenues. I mean, that's the other half of it. We cannot cut our way out of this situation.
Sure.
It's impossible. We've got to do a combination of that and grow at the same time.
And the reevaluation of
Yeah.
the whole facility.
Yes, which will be coming shortly.
Well, I received a statement, and Holly, didn't you guys have an income of $15,000 last month? I mean, you're making a little bit of money.
Profit for the hospital?
Am I reading this wrong? Before you do interest expense and depreciation. Is in his last January's statement.
I mean, their account payables are going up.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, they're not making money. And your account payables climb month
Yes.
after month.
Income loss before interest and depreciation was 15.5, yes.
yeah, so you're barely making it before we do interest and depreciation.
And that was a very low patient census month for us, one of our lowest Januaries we've seen.
Okay.
I just feel like the city, I mean, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, and I know, met with a lot of you board members and all you guys as staff, you've done a lot of effort. And some of it's been pie in the sky, some of it I believe will still come to fruition. But I think where it's gonna land right on the taxpayers here, in whether it's in 30 days, 60 days, 100 days, 3 years, 10 years, it's all gonna come right back on these taxpayers. And I just can't see going down the exact same road.
So what do you propose?
I propose that we gotta look at other options before we go for a 1% sales tax.
How do you stop the hemorrhaging in the meantime? Because that's going to take a lot of time.
How long will this study take, Nick?
The proposal that I
60
looked
to
at,
90 days.
90 days.
But then you're gonna run into issues with the February payment.
Sure. I mean, I'm not even convinced that it'll pass. I mean, a half cent one got beat 2 to 1, and now we're asking for a cent. And I understand you guys need the money. And I know it's got to come from somewhere, but I just don't see it passing easily, if it passes at all. And I think you understand that, but it's gonna, whether we do it, if we prove it tonight and move forward, I guess we'll know in May. But I think we need to be planning for disaster, not hoping that something might come to fruition in May or June time. I mean, that's what I feel like. I mean, I guess that's my proposal. I think a 1 cent is a Band-Aid.
So you want to do a higher one?
And that's up to the public. But I mean, I guess that determines, and 10 years doesn't fix it, Chad. it's gonna have to be
We've
like
got a
Nick,
bridge here that needs to be gapped with something. So, you know, the game plan is to bridge that gap with some kind of sales tax initiative, and in the meantime, get the healthcare study done, which may be done in 60 to 90 days, but you're not going to implement those changes immediately, so you're going to have more lag time to implement the changes to feel the real effect. If you, in my opinion, if you stall, I mean, it's going to be so bad that I
We
mean,
can't afford
we might
to
as well just
stall.
start cutting or raising property taxes now and looking at our cuts right off the bat, which I don't think is fair. You know, our job is just to put a question on the ballot. I feel we've got an entity that comes to us with a true need. I don't think it's fair for me to shut that door, for us five to make that decision, to shut that door of an option to keep that functioning. That's the decision for the public in a vote. I mean, that's my personal opinion. It's not fair for five of us of a population of 13-some thousand to make that decision. Now, just because we pass the sales tax question doesn't mean we're necessarily for or against it. We'll make that decision when we go to the polls. But I think, you know, it is very dire, and I think if the sales tax is not, if we don't put it on the ballot, or it doesn't pass, you know, there's real threats for, you know, a lot of nuclear options that I don't think any of us want to entertain. So I think we need to come up with some kind of question to present to the public and let them make the decision. How badly do you want a hospital open?
I would say, I in some ways echo Brandon's sentiment that we need to maybe even before the question gets onto before the public decides on the ballot, maybe have a little bit more of a concrete 5-year plan on how we're going to be out of this a little bit. You know what I mean?
and I think it would
Then we
help
can
your
present.
cause too. I mean, I can tell you this, me personally, if you guys had a good plan together, I'd be a lot more likely to vote for a 1-cent sales tax. And that's just me personally as a poll goer. But if the expectation is that I'm going to give the same board another cent that got us into this situation, and I know it's not all your guys' fault, and it's not the board, it's not the people, it's the climate of the hospital industry, and it's the situation we're in. There's a lot of things that transpired. It's not anyone's responsibility solely. I mean, I just really believe that the expectation that I'm going to go give the same group of folks another penny or twice as much as I gave them last time. I mean, I think if you go ask the people that got the half cent that voted for it and it voted favorably, thought that this half cent was going to get them a new hospital, and that was going to take it and run with it, and that was going to take care of it. And I believe that's what it was presented that way, and that's what people believed.
Honestly, that's what we believed at the time.
Sure.
And things have changed since
Sure.
then, obviously, or we wouldn't be here today.
I absolutely agree, and I'm just telling you, as a voter, I don't feel comfortable trusting the judgment.
So you want to wipe the board clean, take it over?
I don't know what our options are to do that, but if it's going to fall on the city's responsibility, which it sounds like it may, yes, I want to look at that. I absolutely do.
I think we have very qualified people on the board now. I think a lot of situations changed and a lot of information may not have been given to all of them, which is sad and it shouldn't have been done. And it shouldn't happen in the future either, but I don't see where we could find 10 or 12 more people.
We don't need a 10-person board, 9-person board, I don't think, first off. Secondly, we had a group of directors come to us 2 weeks ago and they wanted a half cent, a single half cent. And knowing that a half cent wouldn't even come close to stopping the hemorrhaging that you're referring to, and was easily conveyed that a half cent won't do anything, we need to look at a 1 cent. So, do I think it could take a fresh look? Absolutely. I really do, and I know a lot of these guys personally and professionally, and great people, no disrespect whatsoever, and I mean that. I appreciate your service, but I also think you might have a better chance of it passing with a different face on the board. I really do. Just think that through.
I want to just address the timing
Give me 5
issue.
to 9 names that are willing to put forth the time and effort to sit on that board, that have the level of expertise of what we need, that are willing to step up to do that for free. Give me those names.
I agree.
Mark Patton, Jolynn Foster.
I mean, I'm not. Give me the names.
You can say the
Dr.
same
Nick
thing about the
Rogers.
commission.
Give me the names. Who
I
in here is
appreciate-
willing to do it? That
I
has the
see you guys
expertise to
here.
run a hospital.
And I do appreciate your service. So those are the three I see. And Dr. Lynn, thank you for your service. I don't.
The timing issue, if you were to wait 60 to 90 days, we would actually probably have to budget a property tax increase for,
Because you now you
because,
don't implement the changes. For
you know, we
another-
wouldn't have enough revenue to cover it for next year.
Well, okay, so we need to budget that anyhow, technically, with the premise that it may not pass.
Well, we have
budget
time.
doesn't
We'll
come
know
till
that.
August.
We'll have time
So we
before then.
know.
We'll know whether it passes before the budget's due. If we wait 90 days, potentially not.
And I don't like it either. But I if you want to give up, let's just give up. Shut it down. We'll have a facility that we still owe 22 million on, that not a single soul can use it. I mean, the tax can always be withdrawn at any given time by the commission, can it not? Even
Yes.
if it
Yeah.
passes.
Yes, it can.
I just don't know what else you do. I don't want it on my back as a property owner. I can guarantee you that. I mean, my property, we pay so much in property taxes. I can't even imagine raising the mills.
40 mills or 41.
Well, even 20.
Yeah.
What would, the business would be affected too, you know?
I mean, just the ripple effect of the community and whole. I don't know.
I haven't talked to a business owner in town that doesn't think a 1% will impact them.
1% sales tax.
Yeah.
What about a 40%, 40 mil increase in your property tax?
I don't think it's an either or, Dwayne. I really don't.
In either or, do them both?
Well, one,
You can't do
if
them
you do
both.
one, it certainly lowers the other
If,
potential option.
if the 1% doesn't pass,
Then you,
the likelihood of us moving forward with a hospital at this level in Arc City, I mean, it's
Well, who needs to make that decision? Us five or them?
That's a fair question.
Yeah, the public needs to make that decision. We're voted by the public, to be up here, but the public needs to do that. They're the ones that voted for the new hospital to begin with.
all we have to decide is if we want to pose the question to them.
So, and I'm gonna step in here because I will be abstaining from voting. I work for Edward Jones, and I am a representative for a municipal bond dealing firm, and I spoke with my compliance director today, and he said I cannot vote on this. And the main reason for that is if I do vote on this and it fails, and the city has to go down the property tax route, or it gets even worse, and the state of Kansas legislature says we cannot raise property tax. If this bond ever goes to court and the city is sued and my name is listed on that suit, I may be out of a job. So I don't want to be involved in this at this point. And I agree with Brandon that I think the situation is dire, and that is a possibility that my name could be listed on that lawsuit. And I don't want to go there. So I'm just gonna, I'll step back at this point. There is one entity that we haven't discussed, and this is part of why my compliance doesn't want me to be in on this, but I was looking at, and if we could bring up the internet, we could look at it for everyone. I don't know, can you get on the internet there and just show something here? And I'll be done with my comments after this.
Town hall meeting start at 7.
Start at 7.
Here we are at town hall meeting.
Yeah.
This will make Tamara and Otis cringe. What I'm gonna. Yeah, can you pull up Internet Explorer? Search Emma, EMMA, space municipal. I just click on just that first thing there, Municipal Rulemaking Board. And up there in the enter name or QSIP, type in Arkansas City. Now scroll down a little bit, you'll see Public Building Commission, keep going, right there. Revenue Bonds, Public Building Commission, click on that one. Yeah, right there. Oh,
Wrong one.
you click on the wrong one. Accept that. And now click on, there we, and then click there on the revenue bond. oh, you're gonna have to accept that. And so this shows all the maturities of bonds we sold. They didn't all go at once. They didn't all sell. I mean, when you issue a bond, it's not like a mortgage where everything's in there. There's different maturities. So click on the very last one, the 040821 AM2. So in here, I was reading through the official statement today, but I want you to click on trade activity. And what this shows is every single one of those bonds that was ever bought or sold. So this bond, 100% of it, or $6 million, went to 4 different trades on August 19th, 2009. So if you hit the plus key, one individual or entity bought $3.3 million. One entity bought $2 million. One individual or entity bought $500,000 and another $200,000. So we're going to pay 1% on everything we buy, so they can keep getting 7% interest. And I would like them to come to us as a commission, and it's not public information for us to find out who the bondholders are, at least as far as I know. But maybe they could help us out too.
What would that bond sell for today?
14%. It's probably that. I mean, if they sell it, they're not going to get all their principal back right now, because that sold. There's the price says 100. That means they paid 100% of the face value to buy it. If you were to sell it on the market today, it probably wouldn't fetch 100, because the hospital then was rated BAA, which meant the lowest investment grade. Now we're CAA 1, which means we're were we rated by S&P or Moody's?
Moody's.
So Moody's thinks we're one step away from default. And actually, we'll probably get a D rating next because we did the technical default.
So you're back to your original position of
I
trying to
just-
hold their feet to the fire. So I'm the investor, and I bought these. And you've read the details of how ironclad it is and how they can force the city to raise property tax to pay it. Why would you, in good conscience, advise me to renegotiate those terms?
I sure wouldn't. That's why I will not be voting on this issue.
But if one
But
of
if they're nice people and they live here in Arc City, they should come forward and say, I'm willing to pay 4%.
Maybe they'll pay our back bills too.
I'm just saying, if they're nice people out there that bought that 200,000.
That's pie in the sky.
That is very pie in the sky.
Yeah.
That's all I have though. It's very pie in the sky, but if I owned those bonds, I don't know what I would do. I probably would see what happens with the sales tax.
Just keep them. You know you're getting paid. I mean, it's coming from somebody's pocket, that's for sure. Well, let me go back to the original question. So you think the 10 years, the term that the hospital feels is appropriate to pitch to the public?
Yes.
Mr. Brown, I've read, where's Mr. Brown? I've read your letter, sir, and I think we all have a copy. Do you want to stand up and address the commission, or, okay, come on up. Just tell us your name and address, sir, and then you can have give you about 3 minutes if you could hold it to that. He just needs to step out and use the restroom. So you're more than welcome to wait on him if you want to.
Okay.
Okay.
First off, I want to thank the City Council for the opportunity to speak on this very important topic that affects not only the future of the South Central Kansas Medical Center, but the future of the city of Arkansas City and its financial reputation. My name is Albert Brown. I am a senior citizen, retired, and a citizen of Arkansas City. I live at 117 North 3rd Street. I can walk. To begin with, I will say that I am totally against the proposed 1-cent sales tax in its present proposal, unless certain changes and safeguards are included in the proposal. The first change is that the 10-year suggested span of the proposed tax is way too long. It is, in my opinion, throwing good money after bad. I believe that the citizens of Arkansas City will defeat a 10-year span of a 1 cent sales tax. Also, there is in place now a 1/2 cent sales tax that will be in place until 2019. This sales tax was, to my understanding, to be used to help keep the hospital afloat. I respectfully suggest, instead of the 10-year, a 5-year 1 cent sales tax. This proposal will give the hospital a 1.5 cent sales tax for the next 3 years, and then drop down to 1 cent sales tax for the next 2 years. If the hospital cannot turn around their financial problems within that time, and I don't mean to be they need to be completely solvent, but they need to be a furtherance of the debt, lowering the debt, then the city needs to get out from under the obligation of further financing the hospital in a way that would be less harmful to the citizens of Arkansas City. The second change would be because I feel that the present hospital administration is too close to the problem that they have. I suggest hiring an outside specialist, as I heard someone in the council meeting a few times back, in turning around the hospital financial problems. This specialist will need the authority to, putting it bluntly, take names, kick tail, and fire those that are not doing their jobs properly. I admit that I am not qualified in hospital administration, although I did work at Kansas Veterans Home for 10.5 years as a maintenance supervisor and as a safety security officer. I would have to go to an expert for advice. An outside specialist would have that expertise to help in this situation and would be well worth the price of his salary. The third change I suggest would be to have more transparency from the hospital administration to the citizens of Arkansas City. I, like the members of the city council here, were blindsided by the recent request from the hospital administration to request that the city pay for the recent bond payment because they were not kept in the loop, the city commission, by getting necessary information. I commend the city manager for his recent comments to the Ark City Traveler about keeping the citizens of Ark City more knowledgeable about all issues that face the city of Arkansas City. And also his comment that he is all about transparency. All concerned should take a page from his concept of serving the citizens of Arkansas City. More things can be done, I am sure, that would help to alleviate and straighten out the financial woes of the South Central Kansas Medical Center. This can be done by all of us, citizens, council members, administrators, and board members. I must admit that I have not done my part in the past in keeping abreast of the conditions of the hospital, although I have taken a little bit more interest in city concerns. For me, that stops right now. I will take more interest in the city affairs from now on, and I hope other citizens will also respond by attending more of the meetings. The present financial plight of the South Central Kansas Medical Center is not very conducive to entice needed doctors to set up practice in this area, nor for doctors in our area to become involved with the South Central Kansas Medical Center. If we all do our part, this can all work out for the good of both the hospital and the city. If the hospital fails, the city loses. If the city loses, needed services will logically be cut or trimmed back. Services like street repair, reduction in staff in all areas, possibly in the police department, city cleanup, snow removal, trash, etc. If the above proposals are made along with others, then I think the citizens of ours, Kansas City, will go along with the 5-year 1-cent sale tax proposal to help the city keep our reputation and help keep the hospital running. I, for one, will support the passage of such proposal and would ask all I come in contact with to support it. If these changes are not made, then I, for one, will not support the 10% sales tax proposal and will do my best to convince others to vote down the proposal. The time for finger pointing and blame is past. We all, and I emphasize all, need to do our parts in the proper way and proper manner. I respectfully submit this proposal for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any questions?
Do you have any questions?
Any questions from Mr. Brown?
Thank you.
I do have a comment. I appreciate you getting up there, and I think your offering is fair. I kind of see it a little bit the other way, though. I almost think we ought to have if the people really want a hospital in Ark City and the way it looks today, the services that we provide, we need to be looking at a 1% sales tax till 2038. And that'll tell people, whether or not they really want a hospital. Because doing it for 10 years isn't going to cover it. I appreciate your point of 5 years because it allows time to address it and then determine if we're getting out.
And see if something will happen to build it up and so that they can build their funds up and pay. If not, then in 5 years, we, the citizens of our Kansas City, and we, the taxpayers, need something done so that we don't put out any more money to something that will not fly. I do believe that in 5 years, with some of the things I've heard tonight from the hospital staff and administration, that they're working diligently to alleviate the problem. Let's give them a chance and go out for this 5%, or this 1% for 5 years, and I will help you. And anybody I can convince to help to get that done so that we keep the hospital and keep the financial reputation of the city of Kansas City. Thank you.
Clayton, do you have to make your third quarter point deadline? Is tonight the cutoff, or do you?
I do not believe that tonight would have to be the cutoff, no. We didn't specifically talk about a drop dead date today, you all knows. We're running out of time.
Sure, I understand. I mean, I was just thinking from a tabling standpoint, we're getting ready to go to a forum where we're talking to the people, not just us 5, but to more citizens, and it's going to be an open forum. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are from what's appropriate. I don't know. Do you guys want to hear what they have to say before we go through with the 1% sales tax, or?
Aren't you having a meeting on the 15th and 22nd?
Well, I think if we need that as soon as next week, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if we can, just for this particular issue, if we want more time to, I don't know, we can wait till the 22nd. I want to be here for that discussion.
I don't blame you.
Won't be here the 15th.
Yeah,
If
we
we
can call
wait-
a special meeting too. I guess it's your guys' town hall just as much as anybody else's. What do you think? I mean,
Well, assuming they're still there.
assuming they're still there.
They're still there, according to Sydney.
Okay.
Well, what's everybody's calendar like next week?
I'm available
When?
Well,
Monday through Friday.
what about, do we have anything going on Tuesday next week? Same time? The 8th?
No. If it's a special meeting, we can do it at any time. If this is the only item on there, because it would be
Well,
resolution, sales tax resolution.
I want to vote to put it on there. I just, the length of time is what, I want to make sure that we're, So I'd hate to see it fail just because of 10 versus 5 or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
May I speak?
Go ahead.
When we talked to the county clerk today, she indicated, she has to prepare the ballot. If we do a mail ballot, the envelope, she has to have certification from the Kansas Secretary of State. If we thought that that's the way we were going, she would get started. And she thought we could do a ballot by the middle of May. Putting it off, just puts off the inevitable of when you make that decision. Just as a longtime citizen here of Arch City and a taxpayer too, to me, the question is, we're gonna pay for it, just how are we gonna pay for it?
Right.
It's either gonna be property tax that's gonna be limited to this geographic area of Arkansas City, or we're gonna spread the burden to the other areas outside the city limits that will also participate, that are actually a part of our community, but do not pay the property tax that those of us inside the city limits pay. So,
And that's,
Brandon?
that's exactly it. It's just
Yeah.
as simple as that.
I don't-
to me, you're my commissioner, I'm telling you, I want a sales tax, I don't want a property tax.
Sure.
And that's what I want you to vote on, is a sales tax and not a property tax. And to sit here and we started the hospital, and that was before Obamacare. We started the hospital before Brownback has refused to expand Medicaid. To our hospital facility, that's $500,000 a year that we won't get. And when you ask us for a 5-year plan, I don't think we can give you a 1-year plan, because who's going to be president next year? And what's going to be on the itinerary for the national scene on healthcare? It's been a whole bunch of issues that have come down that none of us have foreseen, that have all affected us adversely in these small rural communities. This isn't a bombshell. This is something that's happening all over the state of Kansas with small rural hospitals. We know we've had 2 close, and you read the paper and you've got a bunch of others that are just like we are, that when you look at Washington and they look down on a sparse population of Kansas as compared to the metropolitan areas, that they see the number of hospitals serving people, it's understandable that they want to close, they want to shut it down.
Sure.
And so,
I see that there's a third option too, though. I mean, it's not either or, property tax or sales tax.
what is it?
I mean, if for some reason, if you got to think this through, our debt obligation is about $44 million throughout the life of the bonds. Okay, right now today, $24 million is what we owe. The third option would be, if for some reason the sales tax doesn't pass, if we could sell the hospital for just say $10 million, they're going to put some type of healthcare facility there, and there is a market in Arch City for healthcare. Only 21% of the Arch City residents go to the Winfield Hospital today. 21% of Arch City residents and Parkerfield go to the Winfield Hospital. There's still going to be a market here. I mean, whether we sold it for $8 million, $10 million, I don't really know what it would sell for. I have absolutely no idea. But all I know is there is a third option. It's not either we're going to raise our property taxes or sales tax. There's always a third option of selling the place. It's going to be at a loss, and we might be out $14 million, we might be out $16 million, but we're not out $44 million. And we still may have healthcare services here that are similar to what we got today. I don't know what that's going to look like. I feel like that's what a consultant can do for us. I mean, you guys said yourself, as the board and the CEO of the hospital, there's only enough room in Cowley County for 1 hospital. And if you look at the census across the state, and you look at the census across the nation, that's where it's going. 1 hospital per county, and there's only going to be 1 doctor per 1,000 people. I mean, we've got 31 doctors now, and there's 35,000 people. We're right there. I mean, we're real close. It sounds like we need a few more doctors, but so I think there is a third option. I don't think it's either or, sales tax or property tax. It's either way, we're going to pay for it, though. You're absolutely right.
And if we sell it at a reduced
significant
value, then we taxpayers are going to pay the deficiency.
Absolutely.
That's the way it is.
But we might only pay $14 million instead of 44, which is a big difference.
Well, anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the gallery? One up, Mel.
Mel Coon, 521 West Kansas Avenue. reiterating to Mr. Brown said, the sales tax may have to happen. I mean, it may very well have to happen, but the citizens' concerns are often about utilization of the sales tax can we not make the hospital better first and more efficient? Have we explored every opportunity to make it more efficient, or are we doing the same thing over and over and over and over? What people on the street, and myself included, see is that we're doing the same thing, and we're getting the same result. Now we have declining, the returns have declined, population decline, people are getting older, I realize that. But we have to do something to keep up with those times other than throwing more money at the problem. I think it appears that we're missing a core issue. And some of the losses the hospitals experience are the shortfalls. When that chart was showing up here about how much was owed, all the blank columns, either we stopped paying them or they're there and we're not showing them, which is the thought of transparency. I want to see everything. If those are blank because we're not paying them, that's one thing. We stopped paying, we found another vendor. So these columns are blank because we couldn't pay them, or they're blank because we're not showing them. Those are things that people are tired of looking at, tired of hearing about, and tired of finding out after the fact. And all of a sudden, this debt problem's been known for some amount of time. It was even budgeted for, but yet at the 11th hour, it's becoming known, and that's very frustrating to everybody on the street. And so thought of putting another penny towards this, another lost penny, because we don't have a lot to offer everybody, and a high sales tax rate, a high water bill, the high bond rates that we pay. We'll be at a D pretty soon. All these things are all detractors, and having a sales tax money thrown at a known detractor without fixing the detractor just doesn't make any sense.
Hey, well, the healthcare consultant has to happen. It's a violation of bond conditions, so we have to bring him in.
It should happen anyway.
Okay, well, it didn't. We coulda, woulda, shoulda. It has to happen now.
Okay.
We're in violation of our bond conditions. The stopgap is gonna have to be fixed by payment of some fashion until we get that
Well, the
answer to
city's
those
gonna
questions.
have to pick up the.
So do you want it to be on
shortfall.
sales tax,
Have to.
universally spread out to everybody that uses this community? Or do you want it on, potentially on the backs of property taxes?
I want to see something change first before we do anything. In the
Well, we can't-
meantime, the city
So,
will have to
but in the meantime, how do you pay shortcomings
The
that we're gonna
city's
have?
gonna have to cut its expenditures or unfund some things or change things, tighten its belt along with the hospital in
So
a
cut more
combination.
positions.
Because the chances are, right now, that sales tax is not gonna pass. So
We
we're
don't
throwing it out
know.
there.
How do we know?
We're throwing it. Okay, find out then. That'd be fine. Find out.
What does that hurt? What does that
To
hurt?
find out, then what are you gonna start all over again?
What does it hurt to put a question out to the public? That's the question.
But the question needs to be tempered with something like, this is why, this is the reason. We're doing it, we've done this step, we've done that step, we've done this step, and now we're finding
That's
this,
part of
we
the
have
problem we
no
had
other
last
option.
time. The question was so wordy that people didn't even like it.
However it was done, but it's gonna be the same thing this time. We put it out there and said, look, 1 cent to save the hospital. What's the hospital gonna do to save itself?
Well,
It's gonna be that very question. People are gonna look at that and say, what are they gonna do?
Well, we've
Here's
already,
what-
that's what
your
they just
full
did a
faith in-
presentation on.
And we've asked them
But
to
the
do that, so-
presentation alone showed that all these cost cuttings could have been made. All these things could have been done, but they weren't. Nothing was done.
So let's kick the can down the street.
We're not kicking the can down the street.
Raise property taxes, cut city
Well, you
services.
keep saying that, but yet, the city covers the shortfall.
We're
for
just
a
making
while.
that up too?
I'm sorry.
We're just making that up too, that we're
What?
gonna have to raise property
Making
taxes?
what up?
I mean, you criticize Nick for budgeting for that. I think that's
I
smart.
did not criticize, I never
That's the way
criticized
it
it at
comes
all.
across.
It did not, so we budgeted for it.
Okay.
We
Any-
budgeted
anybody
for
else
it,
have
but
any
it was not.
questions?
Pardon?
Anybody else have any questions for Mr.
I'm
Kim?
done.
Did you have anything else to say?
Well, I was right in the middle of the sentence. Of
Go
course
ahead.
I did. If we want this to pass, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a sales tax, but you're gonna have to give something up and not just something on paper. It's gonna have to be some action first. Put something forward, make something happen, have some change.
You want the board cleaned and people fired, is what you're telling me?
If that's what it takes to show something new or different. You do the same thing over and over
So
and
when
over.
your
and
team,
this
when
is
your
what you
team
get.
doesn't do good, you fire the head coach and the,
Yeah, that's how it's done. That's how it's
Start
done.
over.
That is how it's done. That's exactly how it's done.
okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
I say we recess until next week, and that way we don't have to call a special meeting, we're just actually recess until,
Okay.
Next week if
We
we
can do
call.
that? Yes, we can. 5 or 5:30?
Tuesday at 5:30?
Section
5:30.
29.
whatever.
What
Page
time?
13,
13,
47.
6:29.
I'd say 5:30.
5:30?
Which day?
Move we
Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
It's not adjourned, it's recess.
Move we recess till 5:30 next Tuesday, the 8th,
At this like location?
right here.
I'd so move. Oh, you
that
already
was
made the
my
motion.
motion.
Great, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Yeah, recess. Section